So now that we've had our balance patch and the release of Return to Clockwork City, I felt like it was time to dust off the old Deck Spotlight series and share with you guys the stuff I've been playing. So, as you can tell from the list on screen, this video in particular is about mid-range Sorcerer. Now, I affectionately call this Worm King's Sorcerer because I choose to play Worm King's Agent. That card has a lot of detractors. Had even more so when it was released, but I think people are starting to kind of come around on the card. And yeah, I mean, if you've not played mid-range Sorcerer before, this is a deck that basically wins by controlling the board and then snowballing your advantage. This is a deck that doesn't do well playing from behind, though with some of the new tools that it got from Clockwork City and so forth, it does a little bit better than it used to in the past. But for the most part, what you want to do is early in the game, you want to fight for control of the board. You do that with high value creatures, or creatures that are going to generate you value long term. The easiest examples are your cheap creatures with Ward. So I'm talking about cards like Ward Crafter, Windkeep Spellsword, the ever-present Daggerfall Mage. These cards allow you to hopefully trade into other creatures, kill said creatures, but then they survive, hang around on the board, and that generates you value long term. So essentially, you are playing sticky minions, and you slowly snowball your board presence through these value trades. Now, ward creatures are not the only creatures that you can use to do this. Young Mammoth, for example, gets its value just from sheer stats, right? 3 for a 4/4 is pretty big. It means it trades into most creatures that are also 3-drops and still survives, because the most common 3-drops are either 3/3s or 3/4s. And even more so and more important is after the balance patch, it trades into Thorn Histmage. Thorn Histmage is now essentially a 3/4 when played instead of a 3/5, and that's huge. Greatly increases the value you get from your Young Mammoth. Might be one of the best times ever to play Young Mammoth. So, other early game creatures that give you some additional value are things like Crown Quartermaster. That card is subtly good. It's a 1-drop that often trades with most 2-drops and even some 3-drops because of the 2/1 body, but it also leaves you the equipment behind the dagger. And that dagger is kind of a big deal because a lot of your other early game creatures, aka the ones with ward, they have low attack to offset the fact that they have ward. So being able to slap a dagger on a Daggerfall Mage, for example, means that it trades up much better, and then also again still survives because of the ward. Sometimes the dagger is even a defensive measure. If you know you're playing against a deck that runs like Execute, for example, you can feel a lot better about playing your Daggerfall Mage if you can immediately equip a dagger on it to take it out of Execute range. So there's some extra value there. Now, eventually, because of your high value creatures, the goal is you want to win the field lane, right? You take control of the field lane, you make it so that your opponent is afraid to play anything there because you've got a presence and they do not, and thus they're going to lose whatever they play to trades. So you take control of the field lane, you snowball your presence. That's going to push people to the shadow lane. That's where your action removal comes in. So I'm talking about Firebolt, Sorcerer's Negation, Lightning Bolt. They're going to play things and try to hide them in cover. That's where you use your action removal to hopefully nuke them. Sometimes they do it early game. That's why I run the full complement of both Firebolt and Sorcerer's Negation, because there's probably nothing this deck fears more than a turn 1 or a turn 2 Goblin Skulk. Goblin Skulk is, in my opinion, still the best 2-drop in the game, but even more so against a deck like this where we run things like Ward Crafter. You know, if it fetches those curses, it's gonna make things kind of miserable for us. So full complement of Firebolts and Negations just to try to ensure I have a way to deal with the Skulk. Shrieking Harpy's another option. You can lock it down and then hopefully trade into it, but you got to deal with that. Other ways to deal with the Shadow Lane include things like Shadowfen Priest. You can silence whatever's there, it loses cover, and then you trade into it. But eventually, you're going to hit a point where, you know, again, you've got control of the field lane. That's going to push them to the Shadow Lane, and then you start dominating that with either your removal, things like Shadowfen Priest, or you know, creatures that nuke things when they come into play, like High King Emmerich or Worm King's Agent. So listen, Worm King's Agent is a card that I understand why a lot of people don't play it. They would much rather play Bone Colossus in that slot because it's a lot more stats, and if you want to continue to play this list but just sub out Worm King's Agent for Bone Colossus, you can do so, and you'll probably be really successful. I really like Worm King's Agent, however, because it is a tempo play, and Sorcerer is a class that does not have a lot of tempo plays. This is a class that does not have Leaf Lurker, it does not have Sheer Point Dragon, it doesn't have, you know, if you look at like mid-range orcs, the Stone Shard orc, there's just not a lot of like, I play a guy, I nuke your guy, and I'm snowballing my board presence. Worm King's Agent does that for you, lets you nuke those things in the Shadow Lane. There's plenty of like 1/1s and 2/2s and things like that floating around in the meta right now that getting the kill with the agent is pretty easy. Even in those instances where they don't have something small, your ward creatures and or your other actions are really easy to set up that slay. But, you know, essentially you're paying 7 to nuke something, get a 4/4 and a 2/2. So yeah, it's not like the 11/11 stats that a Bone Colossus gives you, but nuking something and getting a 6/6 is pretty good. It's split across 2 bodies, so they gotta hopefully deal with it in multiple ways. The slay is entirely relevant on the Worm King's Agent because even if he trades even with another 4/4, you're gonna leave yet another 2/2 behind, so he's extra resilient. And again, Sorcerer is all about those sticky bodies on the board. The fact that you can throw, you know, ward on it with something like Wardcrafter or trade down into 3/3s or etc., get extra bodies and still survive, just means that it is perfect in this class. There is an awful lot going on with the card, and it doesn't really seem apparent until you start using it. This is one of those cards that, in my opinion, performs much better in action than it looks like it does on paper. But I've been very impressed with its performance so far. When it first came out, I felt like it would be much more of a control card. I am retracting that point of view. It is very good at generating tempo for you. It can be a nail in the coffin card. It can help turn things around. So earlier I had talked about the fact that Sorcerer doesn't do well playing from behind, but Worm King's Agent can help you stabilize against more aggressive decks. You nuke something little, you get a guard on the board. Next turn, you also use your 4/4 to trade with something small, get another guard. It helps slow the pace of the game down. Barrow Stalker is another tool that Sorcerer got, and I'm absolutely in love with that card as well. It's a speed bump early game. It's a source of drain late game. It's a perfect target to use Galen on if you're playing against an aggressive deck. I've got a lot of value out of that card as well. So overall, the deck has been performing very well for me. I think mid-range is in a good place right now in the meta. I think specifically this kind of mid-range is in a really good spot. So yeah, as always, after this I'm going to show you some games, you know, either pre-recorded games or games from the stream where I've been playing this list and had success, so you can kind of get an idea of how the deck plays. As always, I love you guys, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands. My wife just sent me a link to a house that she wants, but I'm afraid if I click on it, it's going to crash. It's going to make me disconnect. So we will see. Sure. I like 2-drops. Do you like 2-drops? I like 2-drops. That's not bad.
Wait! Did you hear that?
Yeah, it didn't pop up. That's what was throwing me. Alright, so...
My Arcane Beard. This
looks like we are going to deal with Token Mage, which is actually a bit of a problem. The other mages I can usually deal with. However, Token Mage has the ability to go just wide enough to be a problem. Though, there is like an Ultra Mage running around right now.
Confound you!
That does use Marked Man, like as a 1 or a 2 of, just at the 1 slot.
I'll take them with me!
By the 8th.
Though I feel like if it was an Ultra Mage, he wouldn't be hitting me in the face the way that he is, you know? I think we just go for board control here, right? Like,
confound you! Ah!
Careful there, friend.
Do I want to use this last slot? It doesn't allow me to ring into either of these next turn, but following turns could matter. This is a really good card in this matchup. But I feel like getting ahead is probably still correct. Let's do that. Just because him going at 4, I don't want him to be able to lightning bolt this.
I'll take them with me.
I mean, he actually still can, but it's alright.
Confound you.
Kind of a bummer that we don't have like a direct answer, but at least we do get the
blood will spill.
value trades.
By the 8th, they will meet their makers.
Weird combo prophecy mage support mage earlier. Yeah.
Soldiers, report.
Your orders, your orders.
Also a bit of a bummer, just because the +2/+2 will not be enough to save that on its own. So now I've got to decide.
Your blood will
I want to
spill.
push more damage or develop more board. It's probably still develop more board. Because we're going to like curve into this to hopefully slow him down and then curve into this.
Your blood will spill.
Do I want to give him the free pop? I think it's still really
By the
important to try to
8th, they
control
will meet
field
their
here.
makers.
I mean, for a token deck,
Into
we're
the bush.
currently staying wider. Is this gonna be Ice Storm? Did he completely throw me with his token strategies? Oh my gosh, no, it's just a third Hive Defender.
Careful there, friend.
I mean, I can't be mad at him. That is a rock solid play.
Your blood will spill. Your blood will spill.
I guess we do that either way. Let's go like that. So this guy has been very, very good for me. I gotta be honest. He's not that hard to set up to slay. Between the number of wards and fire bolts and everything you got going on in this deck. Like, I know at 7 you're thinking, like, well, they're not going to have something with 2 health, but tokens are going to have 2 health. Tree minders, like, there's so many things running around that are small enough. And then even when they're bigger, like, you usually have enough to set it up. And he's good tempo. See, like right here, we're still rock solid with this play. Though, I mean, I could theoretically tome if I don't want to develop him. But developing him is good because then he almost like has to suicide into the 2/2 because he doesn't want to give me the slay. And he's still on the defensive, like he doesn't want to give me runes anyway. And if I play the tome, then I'm also, what, just playing Windkeep? But I could play Windkeep here to hit this, and then play the guy. Playing tome does, however, mean that this just turns around and trades back, but I am up not a card. I think we still go with the board position.
You've not seen my like.
I think that's probably better. I don't really like it in this like snowbally mid-range deck Shannara. It's kind of personal preference, I know, but like I haven't been having any problems really with beating the control decks, and
You can't defeat us.
oh, that Galen is so spicy.
Soldiers, report.
Your orders.
I think
your
I have to
orders.
Galen now, right? Like, there's no way I don't Galen on Kano here, right?
I will keep Sorcerer's people alive.
Your time has come. By Arcade's beard, this day will be mine.
Yeah, I think you do that. Yeah, I mean, I would play him in Control Sorcerer for sure. Like, no question, I'd play him there. But for something like this,
Guide us.
I just haven't really. Like, I'm just trying to snowball board position usually. We got a fair amount of reach here, so we might be all right still. I mean, we got 5, 7, 9. So we're close. We just have to worry about retaliation, obviously, but. Do I take the value trade? Because I could swing for 6 and play a quartermaster. That puts him at 10. I think I just take the value trades, period, actually, you know? I can't think of a scenario where... Because, I mean, other than bolts, he doesn't really have a ton of reach.
Repel the Outlanders.
I keep a spare blade in
I
my
think we just do it that way. I think that's probably safest. I thought about being greedy and just going face and trying to burst him, but if we hit prophecies or something, that's not as good. But he's running out of resources.
No matter what.
Well, of course I say that in E. I'm just gonna cycle some guys now, but I think we're still
A warrior knows to trust her gut.
roughly in a position where we have leverage.
By the 8, they will meet their makers.
Because Harpies will buy us an awful lot of favor. So, like, we can take the value. And then we have enough for these, and then save on Kano for the burst, right?
Confound you!
Oh, plus High King. Damn.
Repel the Outlanders.
Let's actually lock this one down because I don't want him to be able to draw.
Arcade's beard, this day will be mine.
Like, this one does more damage, but again, I'm not really worried about him bursting me for 17 here, so let's not give him the tome to find answers.
My fight is done.
And there we go. See? Alright, so we're going first. Against Mage. Which flavor of Mage do we have today? Which flavor? Alright, the Galen's not bad. One of the games I played off stream, I played Galen on a Barrow Stalker against, like, Mono Red Crusader. I don't think I need to tell you how that went for them.
Of the living.
We're totally gonna Galen this for the record, just because there's a chance that this is
By the 8, they
support
will
mage,
meet
you know?
their makers.
Plus just like the utility is great.
Wrong place for a midnight stroll.
I will keep Sorcerer's people alive.
But that could end up being really, really huge if this is support mage.
Shame will take you.
Tome? Yeah. Not particularly surprised. I really wish I had another 2-drop. See, this is why I like having the 2-drop Shannara, because I find oftentimes when you get to 4 that it's better off. It's a better play typically to just play 2 more 2-drops than it is something else. Because I would really like to trade here and then Wordcrafter here, which I mean I think that's still what the play is. Maybe not. Maybe I just develop a Mammoth, like over here, and then go from there. Let him do some work. My only concern is like if he has Firebolt or Lightning Bolt, then he starts picking off my board. I mean, you have to remember though, Shannara, that some of my 2-drop numbers are inflated because of things like Sorcerer's Negation and Firebolt. Like, I don't count those. Those don't help me develop on board. Those help me... Those are more like I'm trying to clear a path than the other way around, you know? Again, see, the 2-drops would be great because I would love to play a 3 and a 2. Or a 4 and a 1. Yeah. In other decks I'd consider it, but Sorcerer just needs board presence, you know? He's still a turn away from Dawn's Wrath, so I'll do that before I split. Like, you just really can't afford to fall behind. We're already pretty close here. Yeah, he's gonna let me give him some cards. Just smart move by him. Yeah, I'm not happy about the Control Mage meta being back. But I'm one of the people that thinks it's really good right now. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Scout gets a lot of hate, but I would rather play Scout every day of the week than Mage. And I mean any Mage. Just queuing into Mage. Like, when you see Mage, it's so much anxiety because you look at it and you don't even know what to expect until, like, turn 4 or 5.
Friend.
Because, with the exception of tokens that might tip their hand early, like, tokens, mid-range, like the Prophecy one, Support Mage, Traditional Control Mage, Arrest Mage, like, they all play so similar in the early parts, but are so different. You know what I mean? Like, it's just nerve-wracking to figure out what you're trying to play against. And making the wrong decision, obviously, can end up costing you. Mage is just a very strong quality class. You know what I mean?
By the 8th, they will meet their makers.
So I think you do that because if he has Dawn's Wrath, he has to pick. Ice Storm doesn't really help him a ton. Not unless he has, like, Ice Storm, Firebolt, Firebolt, or something. Yeah, that's kind of my point, Shannara, right? So, like, unless they tip their hand or something, it's so hard.
Your blood will spill!
Hopefully this sticks, because we've got some reach. And even if he plays guards, we can sneak through that way. So I also like the new art, Immortal. Hey, speaking of guards. So we should be good, right? Right.
You must be cleansed.
Like, I don't... Knight of the Hour saves him, I guess? Alright. We pulled it through. He threw a lot of removal at us, but we pulled it through.